The black maid saved the millionaire, saying, "Don't enter that room, your wife is trying to kill you," and sparked a love that defied all odds. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun shone through the tall windows of the Harrington mansion. Nicholas Harrington sat in his study, staring at the business papers on his desk without really seeing them. At 55, he had everything money could buy: a successful company, a beautiful mansion, and expensive cars. But he felt empty inside. His wife Veronica's voice echoed from somewhere in the house, probably ordering around another servant. Nicholas sighed. After 15 years of marriage, he knew the real Veronica, cold, manipulative, and only interested in his money. But he couldn't leave her. She had made sure of that by slowly taking control of important parts of his business through clever legal maneuvers. "Would you like some coffee, Mr. Harrington?" The gentle voice belonged to Elise Bennett, his maid. At 45, Elise carried herself with quiet dignity. She had worked for Nicholas for 5 years, and he had come to appreciate her calm presence and kind eyes. "Yes, thank you, Elise," Nicholas replied, managing a small smile. As Elise poured the coffee, Nicholas noticed how her hands were steady and sure, just like everything else about her. Unlike Veronica's dramatic gestures and fake laughs, Elise moved with genuine grace. "Is everything all right, sir?" Elise asked, noticing the tired look on his face. "Just business worries," Nicholas lied. He couldn't tell her how trapped he felt, how each day with Veronica drained more life from him. Later that evening, thunder rolled outside as a storm approached. Elise was finishing up in the kitchen when she heard Veronica's heels clicking on the marble floor. Quickly, Elise stepped behind the large refrigerator. She didn't want another confrontation with Mrs. Harrington, who always seemed to find fault with her work. Through the reflection in the kitchen window, Elise watched as Veronica pulled a small vial from her designer purse. With quick movements, she emptied the contents into a glass of whiskey, Nicholas's nightly drink. Elise's heart stopped. She had seen enough crime shows to know what was happening. The pieces suddenly fit together. Veronica's secret phone calls, the changes to Nicholas's will, the life insurance papers she had seen on Veronica's desk. Heavy footsteps sounded in the hallway. Nicholas was heading to his study where Veronica had placed the poisoned drink. Elise's mind raced. If she stayed quiet, Nicholas would die. If she spoke up, she risked everything: her job, her reputation, maybe even her life. But she couldn't let an innocent man be murdered. Running into the hallway, Elise grabbed Nicholas's arm. "Don't enter that room. Your wife is trying to kill you." Nicholas stared at her in shock. "What are you talking about?" "The whiskey on your desk. I just saw Mrs. Harrington put something in it. Please, you have to believe me." Before Nicholas could respond, Veronica appeared in the doorway. "What's going on here?" Her voice was sharp as a knife. "Elise says," Nicholas began. "Oh, I see," Veronica cut in, her face twisting with anger. "The maid is spreading lies about me. First she steals my jewelry, and now this." "I didn't steal anything," Elise protested. "Mr. Harrington, please, check the drink. Call the police. Do something." Nicholas looked between the two women, his wife of 15 years and the maid who had never given him reason to doubt her. In that moment, he made a choice that would change all their lives forever. "Veronica," he said firmly, "I want you to leave the house tonight until we get to the bottom of this. You're choosing to believe a servant over your own wife." Veronica's voice rose to a shriek. "I'm choosing to be careful," Nicholas replied. "And yes, I trust Elise more than I trust you right now." Veronica's face turned red with rage. "You'll regret this," she hissed, grabbing her purse. "Both of you will pay for this." After Veronica stormed out, Nicholas called his security team and had them escort her from the property. He also called his lawyer, who suggested having the whiskey tested at a lab. That night, as the storm raged outside, Nicholas sat in his kitchen while Elise made him a cup of tea with shaking hands. "Thank you," he said quietly. "If you're right about this." "I wish I wasn't," Elise replied, "but I know what I saw, and I couldn't live with myself if I stayed quiet." Looking at her honest face in the dim kitchen light, Nicholas felt something he hadn't experienced in years: trust. But dark days lay ahead for both of them, as Veronica's revenge was just beginning. The next morning, Veronica's accusations spread through their social circle like wildfire. She claimed Elise had been stealing from the house for months and made up the poisoning story to cover her tracks. She also hinted that Elise was trying to seduce Nicholas, playing on ugly prejudices about their racial difference. Phone calls and emails poured in. Society friends cancelled dinner plans. Business associates asked concerned questions. The other household staff began giving Elise cold looks, wondering if they had misjudged her all this time. But Nicholas stood firm. He hired private investigators to look into Veronica's activities while keeping Elise on staff. However, he kept his distance from her, wounded by too many betrayals to fully open his heart to trust again. For Elise, each day became harder than the last. Whispers followed her everywhere. Her own daughter called, crying, after someone sent her messages about her mother being a gold digger. Finally, one evening, Elise knocked on Nicholas's study door with her resignation letter in hand. "I can't stay," she said simply. "Not when everyone looks at me like I'm a criminal. I know I did the right thing that night, but I won't live under suspicion." Nicholas stood up from his desk. "Please don't go. We'll prove Veronica's lies wrong." Elise shook her head. "It's not about proving anything anymore. It's about my dignity. I saved your life because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted something from you. But if you can't fully trust me, if you still keep me at arm's length, then I don't belong here." As she turned to leave, Nicholas realized he was about to lose the one person who had shown him true loyalty. But before he could find the words to make her stay, Elise walked out of his study and out of his life. Or so they both thought. 2 weeks after Elise left the Harrington mansion, Nicholas sat alone in his giant house, feeling more trapped than ever. The lab results had come back positive. The whiskey contained a lethal dose of poison, but Veronica had covered her tracks well. There was no proof she had put it there. Meanwhile, Veronica was busy destroying Elise's life. She used her connections at the country club to spread more vicious rumors. Soon, no one in their wealthy circle would hire Elise as a housekeeper. Even worse, Veronica hired a shady private investigator to dig up dirt on Elise's past. "Did you know your precious maid was once married to a convicted criminal?" Veronica said smugly during a meeting with their lawyers. "I have proof. Maybe she was working with him to rob us." Nicholas felt sick. He wanted to defend Elise, but doubt crept into his mind. Had he been foolish to trust her? After all, he barely knew anything about her life outside of work. Across town, Elise sat in her small apartment looking through job listings. Her phone rang, another potential employer canceling an interview. Veronica's influence reached further than Elise had imagined. "Mom, maybe you should move to Atlanta with me," her daughter Rachel suggested during their daily call. "Start fresh where nobody knows about all this drama." But Elise refused to run away. "I've done nothing wrong," she said firmly. "I won't let that woman drive me out of my own city." That same evening, Nicholas discovered something disturbing in his company's financial records. Large sums of money had been transferred to offshore accounts over the past year. The signatures authorizing the transfers looked like his, but he had never signed those papers. He called his old friend Detective James Martinez for help. "These signatures are forgeries," Martinez confirmed after examining the documents. "Very good ones. This is serious, Nicholas. We're talking about millions of dollars." "Veronica," Nicholas said, his hands shaking with anger. "She must have been planning this for months." "We'll need more proof to make charges stick," Martinez warned. "And, Nicholas, be careful. Someone willing to poison you won't stop at just one attempt." The detective's words proved true sooner than anyone expected. That night, Nicholas's brakes failed while driving home from work. He barely managed to swerve into a ditch, avoiding a fatal crash. The mechanic found clear signs of tampering, but again there was no direct evidence linking it to Veronica. Shaken by the near-death experience, Nicholas finally admitted to himself how much he missed Elise's steady presence. He thought about her words the night she left, about trust and dignity. He realized she had shown more integrity than anyone else in his life. Nicholas tried to find her, but Elise had changed her phone number. Her daughter refused to tell him where she was living. He couldn't blame them. From their perspective, he had let Elise take the fall for doing the right thing. What Nicholas didn't know was that Elise had started working at a small diner on the other side of town. The owner, Mrs. Chen, didn't care about society gossip. She only cared that Elise was a hard worker and kind to customers. One rainy Tuesday, Elise was wiping down tables when she overheard two businessmen talking about Nicholas Harrington. "Stock's falling like crazy," one said. "Word is his wife's brother is making a move to take over the company." "Didn't know she had a brother," the other replied. "Half-brother Mark Reynolds, real piece of work, been in and out of trouble with the SEC for years." Elise's hands froze. She remembered finding letters addressed to Mark Reynolds hidden in Veronica's desk while cleaning. At the time, it hadn't seemed important. That night, Elise couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about those letters, about Veronica's secret phone calls, about all the pieces of the puzzle she had seen but hadn't put together. The next morning, she called Detective Martinez. They had talked briefly during the initial investigation of the poisoning attempt. She told him everything she remembered about the letters and phone calls. "This could be the break we needed," Martinez said. "But we'll need those letters for proof." "They're still in the house," Elise said, "in a false bottom drawer of Veronica's desk. I found it by accident while cleaning." "We can't get a warrant based just on your word," Martinez sighed. "And Veronica still has legal right to live in that house. She moved back in after you left." Elise made a decision that would change everything. "I might know another way in. The old housekeeper's entrance. Veronica never bothered to change that lock." "Breaking in would be dangerous," Martinez warned, "and illegal. I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking," Elise replied firmly. "I'm offering. That woman tried to kill a good man, and now she's trying to steal everything he has. I won't stand by and let it happen." What Elise didn't tell Martinez was that she had another reason for wanting to help. Every night, she dreamed about Nicholas, his kind eyes, his gentle voice, the way he had trusted her when no one else would. She told herself it was foolish to have feelings for him. They came from different worlds, but her heart wouldn't listen to reason. That Friday night, while Veronica was at her weekly salon appointment, Elise used her old key to enter the mansion. The familiar halls felt different in the darkness. Her heart pounded as she made her way to Veronica's study. The letters were right where she remembered, hidden under a false panel. But as Elise pulled them out, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Someone was coming. Elise quickly slipped into the small closet, hardly daring to breathe. Through the slats in the door, she saw Veronica enter with a man she didn't recognize. "Everything's ready," the man said. "Once the board meeting happens on Monday, Nicholas won't know what hit him." "Perfect," Veronica smiled coldly. "And you're sure no one can trace this back to us?" "Relax, sis. I've done this dozens of times. By the time anyone figures it out, we'll be rich and long gone." They left the room, their voices fading down the hall. Elise waited a few more minutes, then slipped out of the house with the letters clutched to her chest. She had the evidence to save Nicholas. But would she be in time to stop Veronica's plan? Detective Martinez stared at the letters spread across his desk. It was Saturday morning, and they had less than 48 hours before Veronica and her brother made their move against Nicholas. "This is exactly what we needed," he told Elise. "These letters prove Veronica and Mark have been planning this takeover for months. There's even mention of the poison plot." "Then arrest them," Elise said urgently. "It's not that simple. These letters were obtained illegally. We can't use them in court." Martinez ran a hand through his gray hair. "But they tell us where to look for legal evidence. The question is, can we find it before Monday's board meeting?" While they talked, Nicholas was facing his own crisis at the mansion. His lawyer had just delivered devastating news. "They've convinced most of the board members to vote against you," the lawyer explained. "Once they remove you as CEO, Veronica's brother Mark will take control. They'll drain the company dry and leave you with nothing." Nicholas slumped in his chair. "How did I let this happen? I should have seen what Veronica was planning." "Don't blame yourself. She fooled a lot of people." The lawyer hesitated. "There's something else. That maid of yours, Elise Bennett. I did some checking after the poison incident. Her ex-husband wasn't just any criminal. He was an accountant convicted of embezzlement." Nicholas felt his heart sink even lower. "So Veronica was telling the truth about that?" Yes and no. What Veronica didn't mention was that it was Elise who turned her husband in. She discovered he was stealing from his company and reported him, even though it meant destroying her own marriage. The records show she even helped the prosecution build their case. Nicholas sat up straighter. She chose to do the right thing, no matter the personal cost, just like she did with me. Exactly. And from what I hear, she's paying a similar price now. Veronica's smear campaign has made it almost impossible for her to find decent work. Guilt and shame washed over Nicholas. He had let Elise face Veronica's revenge alone, held back by his own trust issues. Now he knew he had to make things right. But finding Elise proved harder than expected. None of his usual contacts could track her down. It was like she had vanished. Meanwhile, Elise and Detective Martinez worked through the weekend, following leads from the letters. They discovered offshore accounts, fake companies, and a trail of financial fraud leading right to Mark Reynolds. "Look at this," Martinez said late Sunday afternoon, pointing to his computer screen. "Mark's done this before. He finds wealthy families, creates conflict between husband and wife, then swoops in to help one spouse take control of the assets. By the time anyone realizes what happened, he's gone with the money. And Veronica's helping him do the same thing to Nicholas. Elise said, her voice tight with anger. More than helping. According to these records, she approached Mark with the idea. She's been planning to destroy Nicholas from the day they married. Elise checked the time. It was almost 6 in the evening. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 the next morning. "We need to warn Nicholas," she said. "Maybe if he knows what's really happening, he can stop the vote." "I'll keep working on getting a warrant," Martinez promised. "You go find him." Elise took a taxi to the mansion, her heart pounding. The gates were locked, but she knew another way in through the garden. As she crept toward the house, she saw lights on in Nicholas's study. But when she reached the window, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Nicholas was slumped over his desk, not moving. Veronica stood over him, holding an empty glass. "Not again," Elise whispered. Without thinking, she grabbed a garden rock and smashed the window. The noise brought the security guards running, but Elise was already climbing through the broken glass, cutting her arms, but not feeling the pain. "Call an ambulance," she screamed. "She's poisoned him again." Veronica tried to run, but the guards caught her. One of them, who had worked at the mansion for years and known Elise, immediately called 911. Elise rushed to Nicholas, her heart in her throat. He was breathing, but barely. She found an empty pill bottle in the trash, sleeping pills mixed with his evening scotch. "Stay with me," she begged, holding his hand. "Please, Nicholas, I can't lose you." The ambulance arrived in minutes. As the paramedics worked, Veronica created a scene in the hallway. "She's lying," she shrieked. "Elise is the one who poisoned him. She broke in like a common criminal." But this time, the evidence was on Elise's side. The security cameras had caught everything. Detective Martinez arrived with his warrant just as the ambulance was leaving. "Veronica Reynolds Harrington, you're under arrest for attempted murder," he said, handcuffing her, "and conspiracy to commit fraud. Your brother Mark is already in custody." Elise rode to the hospital with Nicholas, praying she had reached him in time. In the emergency room, doctors pumped his stomach and gave him activated charcoal. Hours passed. Elise sat by his bed, refusing to leave even after the doctors said he would recover. She held his hand and finally let herself say the words she had been holding back. "I love you," she whispered. "I think I've loved you for a long time. I know you probably can't hear me, and maybe it's better that way. We come from different worlds, but I needed to say it just once." What she didn't know was that Nicholas was starting to wake up, and he had heard every word. The morning sun streamed through the hospital window as Nicholas opened his eyes. His throat felt raw and his head was pounding, but he was alive, and Elise was asleep in the chair next to his bed, still holding his hand. He watched her for a moment, remembering her words from the night before. She loved him. The thought made his heart race, setting off one of the monitors. The beeping woke Elise. She jumped up, quickly letting go of his hand. "You're awake. I should get the nurse." "Wait," Nicholas said, his voice hoarse. "Stay, please." Before either of them could say more, the room filled with people. Doctors, nurses, Detective Martinez, and Nicholas's lawyer all wanted to talk to him. Elise slipped out quietly during the commotion. "Veronica and her brother are in custody," Martinez explained. "We found all the evidence we needed. They're going away for a long time." The lawyer added, "The board meeting's been cancelled. Once the other members learned about the fraud attempt, they pledged their full support to you." But Nicholas wasn't listening. He kept looking at the door where Elise had disappeared. "Where did she go?" he asked. "I need to talk to her." "Sir, you need to rest," the doctor insisted. "You nearly died last night." "I've rested enough," Nicholas said, trying to get up. "I let her walk away once before. I won't make that mistake again." But Elise was already gone. She had taken a taxi back to her small apartment, her mind in turmoil. Nicholas was safe now. Veronica was in jail. Her job was done. It was time to move on before she made a fool of herself over a man who could never return her feelings. She was packing a bag, planning to take her daughter Rachel up on the offer to move to Atlanta, when someone knocked on her door. It was Mrs. Chen from the diner. "Girl, have you seen the news? You're all over it. Heroic former maid saves billionaire's life. My phone's been ringing off the hook with reporters wanting to talk to you." Elise sank onto her couch. "Oh no. Oh yes. And that's not all. Some fancy lawyer came to the diner looking for you. Said something about a reward for uncovering the fraud scheme." "I don't want a reward," Elise said firmly. "I didn't do it for money." "I know that, honey, but maybe you should hear them out. After what that awful woman did to your reputation, you deserve something good to happen." But Elise couldn't think about rewards or reporters. She could only think about Nicholas and how she had revealed her deepest feelings, thinking he couldn't hear her. How could she face him now? Back at the hospital, Nicholas was arguing with his doctors. "I'm signing myself out. Either help me with the paperwork or I'll leave without it. At least stay until tomorrow," his lawyer pleaded. "Every minute I wait is another minute Elise has to disappear again," Nicholas said. "I won't let that happen." Finally, they agreed to release him if he promised to go straight home and rest. Nicholas agreed, crossed his fingers behind his back, and had his driver take him straight to Elise's apartment. He found her address through Mrs. Chen, who was delighted to help. "That girl deserves some happiness," she told him, "after everything she's been through." When Elise opened her door and saw Nicholas standing there, pale but determined, she nearly fainted. "You should be in the hospital," she said. "You should be by my side," he replied. "Where you belong." Elise backed away. "Mr. Harrington." "Nicholas," he corrected. "After saving my life twice, I think you can use my first name." "Nicholas," she said softly. "You don't have to be here. I know you heard what I said last night, and I'm embarrassed." "I love you too," he interrupted. Elise stared at him in shock. "What?" "I love you," he repeated. "I think I started falling for you years ago, but I was too caught up in my own fears to admit it. When you left, the house felt empty. When I thought I'd lost you for good, nothing else mattered. Not the company, not the money, nothing. But people will talk," Elise protested. "The newspapers. Let them talk. I don't care what anyone thinks except you." He took her hands in his. "The only question that matters is, will you give me a chance to prove I'm worthy of your love?" Tears filled Elise's eyes. "You don't have to prove anything." "Yes, I do. I let you face Veronica's accusations alone. I kept you at arm's length when I should have been fighting for you. I have a lot to make up for." "We both have healing to do," Elise said. "You've been through a terrible betrayal." "Then let's heal together," Nicholas said. He reached up to wipe away her tears. "No more walls between us, no more doubts, just us facing whatever comes next as a team." Before Elise could respond, Nicholas swayed slightly. The effort of standing had drained what little strength he had. "You need to rest," Elise said, concerned. "Only if you promise not to disappear while I'm sleeping." "I promise," she said, helping him to a small couch. "I'm done running away." Nicholas lay down, still holding her hand. "Good, because I have big plans for us." "Plans can wait," Elise said softly. "Right now, you need to focus on getting better." "Will you take care of me?" he asked, his eyes already closing. "Always," she promised. As Nicholas drifted off to sleep on her worn couch, Elise marveled at how life could change so completely. Yesterday, she had been ready to leave town. Now, she was starting a new chapter with the man she loved. But their story wasn't over yet. While Nicholas and Elise had found their way to each other, new challenges waited on the horizon. The press was already gathering outside her building, eager for interviews. Society gossips were having a field day with the scandal, and not everyone would accept their relationship as easily as they accepted each other. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but this time they would face it together. The headlines splashed across every newspaper in town. "Billionaire's maid turns savior. Love blooms after murder plot. Harrington scandal, the whole story." Elise couldn't go anywhere without reporters following her. They camped outside her apartment, called her non-stop, and even tried to interview her daughter Rachel in Atlanta. "Mom, this is crazy," Rachel said during their morning phone call. "Someone offered me $50,000 for pictures of you and Mr. Harrington. Don't you dare," Elise warned, though she had to smile at her daughter's excitement. "I wouldn't. But maybe you should do an interview yourself. Tell your side of the story before people make up their own version." Elise sighed, looking out her window at the crowd of reporters below. "I just want things to calm down." But things were about to get even more complicated. Nicholas had finally returned to his mansion after recovering at Elise's apartment for a week. His first day back at work brought an unwelcome visitor. His mother, Catherine Harrington. "Really, Nicholas," Catherine said, settling into a chair in his office. "Couldn't you have found a more suitable companion? A widow from a good family, perhaps?" "Mother," Nicholas warned, "don't start. I'm only thinking of you, darling. The board members are worried. Your investors are nervous. And the country club committee is in an uproar." "I don't care about the country club committee." "Well, you should. Our family has been members for 4 generations. Your father would be horrified to see you throwing away your position in society over some infatuation." Nicholas slammed his hand on the desk. "Enough! Elise saved my life twice. Where were you when Veronica was trying to kill me? Playing bridge at the club?" Catherine's face paled. "That's not fair." "No. What's not fair is you coming here to criticize the woman I love when you didn't even visit me in the hospital. Meanwhile, Elise faced her own family drama. Her sister Pearl showed up unannounced at the diner, where Elise still insisted on working her shifts. "Girl, what are you doing?" Pearl demanded. "Living in that tiny apartment waiting tables when you could be living in a mansion?" "I'm not with Nicholas for his money," Elise said, refilling coffee cups. "I love my job here. Mrs. Chen stood by me when no one else would. But he's a billionaire. At least let him buy you a new car. That old Honda of yours is embarrassing." "My car works just fine." Elise tied her apron tighter. "And I won't have people saying I'm after Nicholas's money." "People are going to talk no matter what you do," Pearl pointed out. "Might as well be comfortable while they do it." Later that evening, Nicholas picked Elise up from work in his Mercedes. The contrast between his expensive suit and her waitress uniform made several customers stare. "You don't have to keep working here," he said gently as they drove away. "Yes, I do," Elise replied. "I need to stay independent, equal." Nicholas took her hand. "You've always been my equal, even when I was too blind to see it." "Tell that to your mother." Nicholas winced. "You heard about her visit? Mrs. Chen's cousin works in your building. News travels fast." "I'm sorry about what she said." "Don't be. She's not entirely wrong." Elise looked out the window. "We come from different worlds, Nicholas. People like your mother will never accept me. Then they'll never see me again," he said firmly. "I've spent my whole life trying to please other people. My parents, society, Veronica. Look where that got me. I'm done living for everyone else." But the pressure continued to build. Anonymous letters arrived at Elise's apartment, telling her to know her place. Nicholas's old friends stopped inviting him to events. Business associates made excuses to postpone meetings. The final straw came when someone threw a brick through the diner's window with a note attached. "Gold diggers not welcome here." Mrs. Chen wanted to call the police, but Elise stopped her. "It'll only make things worse." That night, Elise made a difficult decision. She wrote Nicholas a letter. "My dearest Nicholas, I can't watch your life fall apart because of me. Your business is suffering. Your family is divided. This isn't what I wanted. I love you too much to let you sacrifice everything for me. Maybe your mother is right. Maybe we're fooling ourselves thinking we can bridge our different worlds. I'll always cherish what we had. Please don't try to find me. Love, Elise." She left the letter in his mailbox and drove to the airport. Rachel was waiting for her in Atlanta. She could start fresh there, away from all the drama and judgment. But Elise had underestimated Nicholas's determination. When he found her letter the next morning, he didn't panic or give up. Instead, he smiled and made a phone call. "Detective Martinez, I need a favor. How quickly can you track down a flight to Atlanta?" 2 hours later, Nicholas walked into the airport just as Elise was checking her bags. "Running away again?" he called out. Elise spun around. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out where you were going?" He held up her letter. "You mentioned sacrificing everything for me, but did you ever think that maybe you are everything to me? Nicholas, please, your mother has been informed that she can either accept us or lose her son forever. Her choice. Your business is doing better than ever. Turns out most people love a good redemption story. Our stock is up 30% since the scandal broke. The society gossips. Can go to hell." Nicholas took her hands. "I'm not letting you run away this time, Elise. Not unless you can look me in the eyes and tell me you don't love me anymore." Tears rolled down Elise's cheeks. "You know I can't do that. Then come home. Face this with me. Let me prove to you that our love is stronger than their prejudice." Around them, people were taking pictures with their phones. Tomorrow they would probably be in the papers again. But for once, Elise didn't care. "Okay," she whispered. Nicholas pulled her into his arms, kissing her right there in the middle of the airport. Applause broke out from watching travelers. "Now," Nicholas said when they finally broke apart, "let's go home and plan how we're going to shock society even more." "What do you mean?" He grinned. "Well, I was thinking, how do you feel about a wedding?" The news of Nicholas and Elise's engagement hit the society pages like a bomb. "Harrington heir to marry former maid," screamed the headlines. Phone lines at the mansion lit up with calls from shocked friends and family members. "Have you completely lost your mind?" Nicholas's sister Barbara demanded, storming into his office one morning. "Mother's had to cancel her charity luncheon because no one will come." "Good," Nicholas replied calmly. "Maybe now she'll realize who her real friends are." But even Elise's family had concerns. Her daughter Rachel flew in from Atlanta for an emergency visit. "Mom, are you sure about this?" Rachel asked as they sat in Elise's small apartment. "Everything's happening so fast. A month ago, you were just his maid." "I've never been more sure of anything," Elise said. "When you meet the right person, You just know. I just don't want you to get hurt. Rich men like him, they don't always stick around. Nicholas is different. That's what every woman in love says. The wedding plans quickly became a battlefield. Catherine Harrington insisted on a huge society wedding at the country club. Elise wanted a simple ceremony in her church. "Darling, be reasonable," Catherine said during a tense lunch. "The Harringtons have certain obligations. Half the business world will expect invitations." "Half the business world called me a gold digger last month," Elise pointed out. "Water under the bridge. Everyone loves a good romance now. Let me help you do this properly." But Elise stood firm. "The ceremony will be in my church, with Reverend Johnson officiating, the same man who baptized my daughter and buried my mother." Catherine's lips tightened. "Nicholas, surely you see how this will look." "Yes," Nicholas said, taking Elise's hand. "It will look like I'm marrying the woman I love in a place that matters to her." But Catherine wasn't giving up. She went behind their backs to book the country club anyway. When Elise found out, she was furious. "Your mother thinks she can buy my church's happiness with a donation," she demanded. "Does she think we're all so poor we'll sell our dignity?" "I'll handle it," Nicholas promised. "No, I will." Elise grabbed her car keys. It's time Catherine Harrington and I had a real conversation. She found Catherine at her weekly hair appointment, wearing a silk robe and drinking champagne while her stylist worked. "Mrs. Harrington, we need to talk." Catherine's eyebrows rose. "I'm rather busy at the moment." "Too bad." Elise sat down directly across from her. "I've been polite, I've been patient, but I'm done letting you steamroll over my wishes for my own wedding." "I'm only trying to help," Catherine sniffed. "No, you're trying to control something you can't accept. You think if you make this wedding grand enough, society will forget I was a maid. But I'm not ashamed of who I am. You should be grateful." "Grateful?" Elise leaned forward. "Let me tell you something about gratitude, Mrs. Harrington. I'm grateful for my mother, who cleaned houses her whole life to put me through school. I'm grateful for my daughter, who never once felt ashamed of her working mom. And I'm grateful for Nicholas, who sees me for who I am, not what I do for a living." Catherine's face softened slightly. "You really love him, don't you? More than my own life, which is why I saved it. Twice, while you were at your charity luncheons." The barb hit home. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "I should have seen what Veronica was doing. I should have protected my son." "Yes, you should have, but you were too busy protecting your social position. And now you think you can do better." "I know I can because I don't care about social position, I care about Nicholas." There was a long silence. Finally, Catherine said, "The blue roses you ordered for the church, they won't work. Blue roses have no scent. White gardenias would be better. They were his grandmother's favorite." Elise recognized the olive branch for what it was. "Maybe we could use both." It wasn't exactly peace, but it was a start. Meanwhile, Nicholas faced his own battles. His board of directors called an emergency meeting. "The company's image is at stake," one member argued. "Perhaps a prenuptial agreement." "No," Nicholas said flatly. "I trust Elise more than I trust anyone in this room. But shareholders are welcome to sell their stock if they don't like my personal choices." The stock did drop a few points after that meeting, but Nicholas didn't care. He had learned the hard way what really mattered in life. That evening, he surprised Elise at her apartment with takeout from their favorite Chinese restaurant. "I heard about your conversation with my mother," he said, serving the food on paper plates because Elise still refused to let him buy her fancy dishes. "Are you mad?" "Mad? I'm proud. No one's ever stood up to her like that before." He grinned, "though my stylist says she drank 3 glasses of champagne afterward." Elise laughed, then grew serious. "Nicholas, are you sure about all this? The scandal, the gossip, the business problems?" "Stop," he took her hands. "The only thing I'm sure about is you. The rest is just noise. But your whole life is changing because of me. My whole life was saved because of you. Everything else is just details." As they ate their dinner on Elise's small balcony, watching the sunset, neither of them noticed the man taking pictures from across the street. Pictures that would soon cause a whole new storm of trouble. Because Veronica might be in jail, but she still had friends on the outside, friends who owed her favors, and she hadn't given up on her revenge just yet. In her prison cell, Veronica smiled as she read the latest letter from her loyal servant. Soon, very soon, she would make sure Nicholas and Elise never made it to the altar. The war for their happiness was far from over. 2 weeks before the wedding, everything seemed perfect. The church was decorated, the guest list was finalized, and even Catherine Harrington had started calling Elise by her first name instead of the maid. Then the photos appeared. They were everywhere. Newspapers, TV, social media. Photos of Elise meeting secretly with Mark Reynolds, Veronica's brother, at a coffee shop 6 months before the poisoning incident. In one picture, she was taking an envelope from him. In another, they were laughing together. The story broke on the morning news. Harrington romance, a setup from the start. Nicholas was in his office when his lawyer brought him the newspaper. "There's more," the lawyer said grimly. Bank records show regular deposits into Elise's account during the months leading up to Veronica's arrest. The payments came from an offshore account linked to Mark Reynolds. "That's impossible," Nicholas said, but his hands were shaking. Across town, Elise was at the diner when she saw the news. Her phone started ringing immediately. Rachel, Pearl, even Mrs. Chen wanted to know what was going on. "I can explain," Elise kept saying. But could she? The photos were real. The meetings had happened, but not for the reasons everyone thought. She drove to Nicholas's office, but his secretary stopped her. "Mr. Harrington isn't taking visitors." "I'm not a visitor, I'm his fiancée." He left strict instructions. "No one gets in, especially you." Devastated, Elise went to the one person who might help, Detective Martinez. "I remember those meetings," she told him. "Mark approached me at the grocery store, said he was worried about his sister, Veronica. He claimed she was having mental problems, getting paranoid. He wanted me to keep an eye on her, report any strange behavior." "And the payments?" Martinez asked. "He said it was consulting fees, that watching Veronica wasn't part of my regular duties as a maid. I didn't want to take the money, but he insisted it was normal procedure." "Why didn't you mention this during the investigation?" "Because I felt stupid." Tears rolled down Elise's cheeks. "Once I realized they had set me up, I was so ashamed. They used me to spy on Nicholas to learn his routine. The payments make me look like I was part of their plot." Martinez believed her, but proving her innocence wouldn't be easy, especially since the photos had come from inside the prison, leaked by a guard on Veronica's payroll. Meanwhile, Nicholas was drowning in doubt. He wanted to believe in Elise, but the evidence looked bad. His trust issues, carefully buried during their romance, came roaring back to life. He didn't answer her calls, didn't read her messages. Instead, he sat in his study drinking scotch, staring at their engagement photo. Catherine found him there late that night. "I hate to say I told you so." "Then don't," he snapped. "Nicholas, you're not thinking clearly. Those photos show exactly what everyone expected, don't they? The scheming maid, plotting to trap the rich man." He threw his glass against the wall. "God, I'm such a fool." But while Nicholas struggled with his demons, Elise refused to give up. She went to the prison to confront Veronica. "Well, well," Veronica smirked through the visiting room glass. "The fallen angel herself." "Why?" Elise demanded. "You're already in prison. What more do you want?" "I want him to feel what I feel. Complete destruction. Total humiliation." Veronica leaned forward. "How does it feel knowing he'll never trust you again?" "That's what betrayal does to Nicholas Harrington. It breaks him. I never betrayed him. Doesn't matter. The seeds of doubt are planted. You've lost him, just like I planned." But Veronica had made a mistake. Her gloating gave Detective Martinez enough reason to dig deeper into the prison's communication records. He discovered a network of corrupt guards and outside helpers who had orchestrated the photo leak. More importantly, he found Mark Reynolds' original messages to Elise, proving he had deliberately manipulated her into those meetings. "The payments were real," Martinez told Nicholas, "but they were part of their setup. They needed someone close to you, someone who would notice Veronica's suspicious behavior. They used Elise's genuine concern against her." Nicholas felt sick. "Where is she?" "Last I heard, packing to leave town. Her daughter's been begging her to come to Atlanta." "No." Nicholas grabbed his car keys. "Not again. I won't lose her again." He drove to Elise's apartment, breaking every speed limit, but her car was gone. In a panic, he called Rachel. "She's at the church," Rachel told him. "Said she needed to cancel the wedding arrangements herself. Wouldn't let me do it." Nicholas found Elise in the empty church, sitting alone in the front pew. She looked small and defeated. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. She didn't turn around. "For what? Believing the worst of me? Not letting me explain? Or just forever thinking someone like me could be worthy of someone like you? Don't." He sat beside her. "You're worth 10 of me. I let my fears poison something beautiful. Again, it hurts," she whispered, "that you could think I would be part of a plot to harm you. After everything we've been through, I know. I don't deserve your forgiveness." "No, you don't." Finally, she looked at him. "But love isn't about deserving, is it? It's about choosing. Every day, through good times and bad, we choose each other. Choose me again, he begged. Give me one more chance to prove I can be the man you deserve. Elise was quiet for a long moment. I never stopped choosing you, Nicholas. Even when you shut me out, even when the whole world believed I was guilty. I chose you. I'll always choose you. Nicholas pulled her into his arms, holding her while they both cried. In the empty church, surrounded by wedding flowers that suddenly didn't need to be cancelled, they began to heal. But outside, Veronica's final revenge was still in motion. Because the photos weren't her only plan. There was still one more card to play, one that would strike at the heart of everything Nicholas and Elise held dear. In her prison cell, Veronica smiled as she received the secret message. Package delivered. Everything is ready. The wedding was in 2 weeks. But would the bride and groom live to see it? 1 week before the wedding, the threats began. First it was just phone calls, heavy breathing, then hanging up. Then came the dead roses delivered to Elise's apartment. But when Nicholas's car exploded in the company parking lot, they knew this was more than just harassment. Thank God you were running late that morning, Elise said, holding Nicholas's hand as they watched firefighters put out the flames. Detective Martinez examined the wreckage. This was professional, military-grade explosives. Veronica, Nicholas growled. She's behind this. But when they checked, Veronica was still safely locked away in prison. She even had an alibi for the phone calls. She'd been in the prison cafeteria, witnessed by dozens of inmates. She's working with someone, Elise insisted. Someone on the outside. The police posted guards at both their homes. Nicholas hired extra security for the wedding, but the incidents kept coming. The church's electrical system was tampered with, causing a small fire during the wedding rehearsal. Elise's wedding dress disappeared from the shop, only to be found shredded in the dumpster behind the store. Maybe we should postpone, Rachel suggested, watching her mother try on a replacement dress. No, Elise said firmly. That's what they want, to scare us away from happiness. But even Nicholas was worried. I can't lose you, he told Elise that night. If anything happened to you, nothing will happen, she promised. We've come too far to give up now. 2 days before the wedding, Detective Martinez made a breakthrough. He discovered that one of the prison guards, Tom Wilson, had been visiting Veronica regularly, off the books. His sister worked as a military explosives expert, Martinez reported. And guess what? She recently went on vacation, right when the attacks started. They brought Wilson in for questioning, but he wouldn't talk. His sister had disappeared. The night before the wedding, Nicholas and Elise held each other close in her small apartment, surrounded by police guards outside. Last chance to run away with me? Nicholas joked weakly. We could elope to Vegas. No way, Elise smiled. I want to walk down that church aisle tomorrow and show the world that love wins, that all their schemes and bombs and threats couldn't stop us. You're the bravest person I've ever known. I'm terrified, she admitted. But I won't let fear steal our joy. What they didn't know was that at that very moment, Wilson's sister Jane was already inside the church. She had snuck in disguised as a cleaner, planting her deadliest explosive yet under the altar. The wedding day dawned bright and clear. The church filled with guests, those loyal friends who had stood by them through everything, along with many who had once shunned them, but now wanted to be part of the fairy tale romance. Catherine Harrington sat in the front row, actually smiling as she watched the final decorations being placed. But in her prison cell, Veronica was also smiling. She had paid Wilson's sister a fortune to make sure this wedding ended with a bang. Literally. The bomb was set to go off during the vows when Nicholas and Elise would be standing directly over it. As Elise got ready in the church's bridal room, Rachel helping with her veil, Detective Martinez was making one final sweep of the building. Something about Wilson's smirk during questioning bothered him. In the main church, Nicholas greeted guests, his heart pounding with excitement rather than fear. After everything they'd been through, this moment felt like a miracle. Then Martinez's trained eye caught something under the altar, a tiny red light blinking. "Everybody out!" he shouted. "Bomb!" Panic erupted. Guests ran for the exits. Nicholas fought against the crowd trying to reach the bridal room, but Elise was already running, toward the altar, not away from it. "What are you doing?" Nicholas screamed. "Mrs. Chen's granddaughter." Elise pointed to where 4-year-old Lily had gotten separated from her family. The little girl was crying, trapped behind a fallen flower arrangement near the altar. Nicholas and Elise reached her together, scooping her up just as Martinez yelled, "20 seconds!" They ran, carrying Lily between them. Behind them, the altar exploded, sending wood and glass flying everywhere. Nicholas covered Elise and Lily with his body as debris rained down. When the dust settled, they were all alive, cut and bruised, but alive. Outside, the police caught Jane Wilson trying to escape in the chaos. She quickly confessed everything, turning on Veronica in exchange for a lighter sentence. "Some wedding, huh?" Nicholas said, helping Elise to her feet. Her white dress was torn and dirty, but she had never looked more beautiful to him. "It's not over yet," she replied. She turned to Reverend Johnson, who was brushing debris off his robes. "We still need to get married." "Here?" Nicholas looked around at the destroyed church. "Right here, right now." Elise took his hands. In front of everyone who just saw what real love looks like, running toward danger together, protecting each other. The guests gathered around them in the debris-strewn church. Catherine dabbed tears from her eyes. Rachel held little Lily, who had stopped crying and was now fascinated by all the excitement. Reverend Johnson smiled. "Well then, shall we begin again, dearly beloved?" This wasn't the perfect society wedding they had planned. Elise's dress was ruined, the church was in shambles, and sirens wailed in the background. But as they spoke their vows among the wreckage, their love felt stronger than ever. They had faced death together and emerged victorious. In her prison cell, Veronica screamed with rage when she heard the news, but her screams couldn't change the truth. Love had won. Yet even as Nicholas kissed his bride, Detective Martinez's phone rang. The news he received would cast a shadow over their happily ever after, because Veronica had one last surprise waiting, and this time she wouldn't fail. The war wasn't over. It was about to enter its deadliest phase yet. Nicholas and Elise's honeymoon in the Bahamas lasted exactly 2 days. That's when Detective Martinez's urgent call came through. Veronica's escaped. They rushed back to find the city in chaos. During a prisoner transfer, Veronica had somehow slipped away. 3 guards were dead, and no one knew how she'd done it. She had help, Martinez explained at the emergency meeting. Someone powerful. The security cameras mysteriously failed. The guards' bulletproof vests were replaced with fakes. This took money. Lots of it. But all her accounts are frozen, Nicholas said, holding Elise's hand tight. Not all of them. Martinez spread out some papers. Remember that offshore account she used to pay Elise during the setup? We found its source. Your father's old business partner, Richard Maxwell. Nicholas went pale. Uncle Richard? But he's been like a second father to me since Dad died. He's also been in love with Veronica for years, Martinez said. They've been secret lovers since before your marriage. The betrayal hit Nicholas hard. Richard had been the one who first introduced him to Veronica. Had it all been part of their plan? How many years had they been plotting together? But there was no time to dwell on the past. Veronica was out there, armed and desperate for revenge. They moved Elise's daughter Rachel to a safe house. Catherine Harrington, finally showing real concern for her new daughter-in-law, insisted Elise and Nicholas stay at her heavily guarded mansion. "Let her come," Nicholas said grimly. "This time I'm ready for her." But Veronica was always one step ahead. The first attack came at breakfast. Poison in the coffee maker. Only Catherine's last-minute decision to have tea instead saved them all. Then Nicholas's brakes failed again, just like before. This time he was ready and managed to control the car. "She's repeating her old tricks," Elise said. "She wants us scared, paranoid." "It's working," Nicholas admitted. The police set up surveillance everywhere, but Veronica seemed to know their every move. 3 more attempts on their lives failed, each one closer than the last. Finally, Detective Martinez figured it out. There's a mole in the police department. That's how she knows everything. But before they could investigate, Veronica made her final move. It started with a video sent to Nicholas's phone. Rachel was tied to a chair, terrified but alive. "Come alone to the old factory," Veronica's voice said. "Both of you. No police, or she dies." "It's a trap," Martinez warned. "Of course it is," Elise said, already grabbing her car keys. "But she has my daughter." The old factory had been abandoned for years. It stood dark and empty at the edge of town, a perfect place for Veronica's endgame. Nicholas and Elise walked in holding hands, knowing they might not walk out again. "How touching," Veronica's voice echoed through the darkness. The happy couple together to the end. She stepped out of the shadows, holding a gun. She looked different after prison, thinner, harder, her expensive clothes replaced by plain black tactical gear. Behind her, Richard Maxwell appeared, dragging a bound Rachel. "Let her go," Elise pleaded. "She's innocent in all this." "Innocent?" Veronica laughed. No one's innocent. You took everything from me. My marriage, my freedom, my reputation. Now I'm taking everything from you. I have a better idea." The new voice made everyone jump. Catherine Harrington stepped out from behind a pillar, holding her own gun. "Mother!" Nicholas gasped. "What are you doing here? Did you really think I'd let you come alone?" Catherine's voice was steel. "I put a tracker in your watch after the last attempt." "Catherine," Richard said smoothly, "be reasonable. This doesn't concern you, doesn't it? You and this witch tried to kill my son, used him for years, no more." Veronica's gun swung toward Catherine. "You won't shoot me. You've never had the courage to get your hands dirty. Try me." Catherine's aim was steady. "I've changed. Elise taught me what real courage looks like." The standoff lasted only seconds, but it felt like hours. Then several things happened at once. Veronica fired at Catherine. Catherine fired at Veronica. Richard lunged for Rachel. And through it all, Nicholas and Elise moved as one, diving to protect both Catherine and Rachel. The gunshots echoed through the empty factory. When the smoke cleared, Veronica lay wounded, her shot having gone wild. Catherine stood unharmed, her society lady's hands still gripping the gun. Richard tried to run but slipped in a puddle of oil. The fall knocked him out cold. Rachel, freed from her bonds, ran into her mother's arms. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "They grabbed me from the safe house. The police guard was working for them." "Shh," Elise soothed her daughter. "You're safe now. It's over." But Veronica, despite her wound, started laughing. "You think this is over? Look up." They all raised their eyes to see dozens of red lights blinking in the factory ceiling. The whole building was rigged to blow. "2 minutes," Veronica said weakly. "Not enough time to escape. We all die together." Catherine grabbed Rachel, pushing her toward the exit. "Run!" Nicholas tried to help Veronica, but she fought him off. "Let me go. I want this." "We're not leaving you," Elise said, as Nicholas lifted Veronica despite her struggles. They ran through the dark factory, following Catherine and Rachel. Behind them, the first explosion started. The heat was intense, the smoke blinding. They could barely see where they were going. 1 minute left. The exit seemed miles away. 30 seconds. They weren't going to make it. But then Elise remembered something. A back door she'd once noticed while driving past the factory. "This way," she shouted, pulling them down a side corridor. The final explosion came just as they burst through the door. The force threw them all forward onto the grass. They made it. All of them, even Veronica. As sirens wailed in the distance, Nicholas pulled Elise close. "I thought I'd lost you. Again." "Never," she whispered. "We promised, remember? Together, no matter what." Catherine hugged Rachel, then surprised everyone by hugging Elise too. "Thank you," she said simply, "for saving my son again." Veronica, her wounds being treated by paramedics, watched it all with empty eyes. Her final revenge had failed. Love had won again. But as the police led her and Richard away, Detective Martinez made a shocking discovery in the factory ruins. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about the case. Because Veronica's real secret was still waiting to be revealed. And this one would test Nicholas and Elise's love in ways they never imagined possible. In the factory ruins, Detective Martinez found a metal box that survived the explosions. Inside were documents that shook everyone's world, DNA test results and birth certificates. "Nicholas," Martinez said gently, "there's no easy way to say this. You have a son with Veronica." The news hit like a physical blow. "That's impossible. We never had children. According to these records, she was pregnant when you married. She gave birth in secret and gave the baby up for adoption. The boy is 21 now." Elise held Nicholas as he struggled to process this news. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would she hide my own child from me?" The answer came from Richard Maxwell during his confession. "The boy wasn't Nicholas's," he admitted. "He was mine. Veronica knew Nicholas would divorce her if he ever found out, so we hid the pregnancy, gave the baby away." But that wasn't the whole truth, because the DNA results told a different story. The boy, named Michael, was Nicholas's son after all. "She lied to everyone," Martinez explained, "even Richard. She wanted to keep both men tied to her through different lies." Nicholas was devastated. "My son, all these years. We'll find him," Elise promised. Together, the search led them to a small college in Boston, where Michael Carter had just graduated with honors in business, just like his father. The meeting was emotional. Michael had known he was adopted but never knew his real parents. When Nicholas told him the whole story, the young man was shocked. "So my mother is in prison for trying to kill you?" Michael asked. "And now you're married to the woman who stopped her?" "I know it's a lot to take in," Nicholas said, but Michael surprised them all by laughing. "Are you kidding? This is amazing. I always knew I was meant for more than a quiet life." "Hima Harrington?" Elise watched father and son connect, her heart full. Michael had Nicholas's smile, his quick mind, and thankfully none of Veronica's darkness. When Veronica learned that her final secret was out, she had one last card to play. From prison, she sent Michael a letter, full of lies about how Nicholas had abandoned them, how she'd been forced to give him up. But Michael didn't fall for it. "My whole life, my adopted parents taught me to judge people by their actions, not their words," he told Nicholas. "Mom's in prison for attempted murder. You're here, wanting to know me. It's pretty clear who's telling the truth." Catherine was overjoyed to have a grandson. She immediately started planning ways to introduce Michael to society, but the young man had other ideas. "Actually," he said during dinner at the mansion, "I want to learn the business from the ground up. Maybe start in the mailroom." Nicholas beamed with pride. "Like I did when your grandfather was alive. And," Michael added, "I'd like Elise to teach me about the charitable foundation she's starting. Helping people sounds more rewarding than just making money." Elise smiled through tears. This boy she'd just met was already claiming a piece of her heart. The foundation had been her dream, using some of Nicholas's wealth to help working families, provide scholarships, and support domestic violence survivors. Now it would be a family project. Even Rachel was thrilled to discover she had a stepbrother. Finally, someone else who understands what it's like to join this crazy family. Weeks later, they all gathered for a private ceremony, Michael legally changing his name to Harrington. Veronica watched the news coverage in her prison cell, realizing she had lost everything. Her last weapon had become a blessing instead of a curse. That night, Nicholas found Elise in their garden, looking at the stars. "Having regrets?" he asked softly. "All this drama just because you chose to love me. My only regret," she said, "is that we wasted so much time doubting what we had." "No more doubts," he promised, pulling her close. "No more tests. Just us, our family, and a lifetime of love ahead." Inside the mansion, they could hear Michael and Rachel laughing with Catherine, probably plotting more ways to expand the foundation's work. "You know," Elise said thoughtfully, "when I was a little girl reading romance novels and dreaming of Prince Charming, I never imagined the reality would be so complicated." "Disappointed?" "No." She turned in his arms, touching his face gently. "Real love, messy, difficult, tested by fire, is better than any fairy tale." Nicholas smiled. "Even with murderous ex-wives, secret sons, and society scandals. Especially with all of that, because we chose each other, every single time. Through every challenge, every doubt, every battle, that's what real love is." As they kissed in the moonlight, both remembered that first warning cry, "Don't enter that room, your wife is trying to kill you." Words that had changed their lives forever. Words that had started them on this incredible journey. In her prison cell, Veronica finally accepted her defeat. She had lost everything, her freedom, her schemes, even her son. But in losing, she had inadvertently given Nicholas and Elise their greatest gift, proof that their love could survive anything. The next morning, Nicholas and Elise had breakfast with their newly expanded family. Michael and Rachel were planning volunteer projects together. Catherine was actually helping in the kitchen, learning to cook from Mrs. Chen, who had become a regular visitor to the mansion. "You know what this means," Nicholas whispered to Elise as they watched their family. "What?" "Our story isn't over. It's just beginning." And he was right, because real love stories don't end with happily ever after. They continue growing, changing, facing new challenges, and finding new joys. For Nicholas and Elise, their greatest adventure was just starting, the daily miracle of choosing each other, building their family, and proving that love really can conquer all. As the morning sun filled their home with light, they held each other close, grateful for every test that had made their love stronger, every battle that had brought them closer, and every choice that had led them here, to their own kind of happily ever after. The end.